After the revolution here in Egypt, no one was buying anything, and it really hurt retail. I saw a great opportunity in terms of all of the products that were just sitting on the shelves in these stores and exporting them, giving these boutiques the opportunity to sell globally.
Ever since I was pretty young and I was interested in technology, I had to learn almost everything in English, and my community was in Spanish. I started realizing that there was a lot of developers out there that also needed good content in their own language. So we created Platzi to solve this problem.
Here in Turkey, recent developments hurt the tourism industry, especially the small mom-and-pop shops. At Hotel Runner, our typical customers are family-run properties. So we really help them get online, market their property, and actually start selling.
Online banking here in Egypt is almost non-existent. It's incredibly frustrating to think that we work on Coterie day in, day out, but at the end of the day, there are clients that are coming onto the site, they're loving the items that they see, they want to process the payment, but we're not able to accept it. It's impacting the business, it's limiting us.
Growing as a global company, there are obvious problems. One of the biggest ones that we face right now is payment.
When we first launched Platzi, we needed to charge people from all over the world who speak Spanish. So you try to think corporate. We had to do everything here in the US. I had to claim my tax ID number here in the US, and this means flying to open a bank account. We had to go to several lawyers, several accountants. That's hard, it's complicated.
You know, if we can't get paid for the services, we can't really survive. When we heard about Atlas, all three founders went just, yes, this is it. We're going to solve this problem finally.
Atlas is going to make it so much easier to accept payments in dollars and different currencies and not have to relocate elsewhere in order to do that. We're always going to have our Egyptian roots, but it's going to put us on the global stage.
It will allow us to access world-class banking and financial system, which really wasn't possible in Turkey.
We're going to see a revolution of startups coming to the global market, and Atlas could help them from the beginning.
Now, I don't need to leave Egypt. I can stay in Cairo with my family, and I can just focus on growing Coterie.
We have more than 17,000 hotels in 127 countries. We are hoping that it's going to be a billion-dollar business in the next 3 years. But for me, it really is not about money.
But you shouldn't have to be a Silicon Valley insider to start a global company.
It's not just Silicon Valley, it's the Silicon Valley of the world.
Please welcome Patrick Collison from Stripe and Michael Corin, reporter at Quartz.
Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And I'd like to introduce Patrick Collison. He's the co-founder of Stripe with his brother, John. Back in 2010, Patrick, you started working on Stripe as the universal payment platform for the internet. And as you described it, the idea is that you can drop a few lines of code into a website and move money or transact payments anywhere on the web.
Right.
As it turns out, that was a pretty good idea. I think the company's worth about $5 billion right now. You're bigger than Square. You have about more than 100,000 customers, including Slack and Lyft and a number of others. So what I want to talk about was a little bit about how this is going to actually affect the next billion to come online.
Sure.
Your personal experience building the company, and maybe start with, what is Slack, and particularly Atlas, which
Stripe.
I just saw.
I can define Slack too.
Yeah. which you helped
it's
pay
a platform for emoji, I think.
That's right. As well as Atlas, which you actually have just shown a video of. So tell us a little bit, what is Stripe?
So Stripe is a set of software tools for starting and scaling and running internet and technology businesses. And as you say, we started out with payments because that's kind of the root thing that you need to be a business, right? I mean, there are very few businesses that don't, except revenue in some way, or at least those businesses don't tend to last a long time. And so payments for us was really this foundational layer, and it was kind of the right place for us to start because we ourselves had seen that the process of accepting payments on the internet was really bizarrely complicated before Stripe. I think it's really hard for an outsider to perceive the full extent of this, but really, if you wanted to accept credit card payments on the internet, you have to go through this insane process that was like trying to get a mortgage or something like that.
And so what's it like now?
So now with Stripe, you sign up for the website and you can be accepting payments on your website or in your app or with whatever you're building, within a couple of minutes. It's kind of instant setup and was the first tool to sort of give you complete control and instant setup. But again, to your question, this was the starting point, this kind of foundational component to accept payments. And now over time, we've been building these additional components on top of it. So APIs to build marketplaces, or support for crowdfunding platforms, or for SaaS and subscription businesses. And as you just saw in the video there, now support for literally starting companies. And so with Atlas, you can be an entrepreneur anywhere in the world. You can come to Stripe, and we'll help you incorporate a company, a Delaware company, just like the biggest and most successful technology companies here in the US, get a US bank account, get US tax and legal advice. And so kind of even if you're in Pakistan or Namibia or Gaza Strip, literally, you can now go and start a US technology company sort of on a level playing field, on an equal footing. And so that's what Stripe enables.
So one of the things you mentioned before is that you don't have to be in Silicon Valley to start a world-class company.
Yes.
But at the same time, maximizing the probability of doing so